I am one of dreams and moods, Mr. Bellamann. I try to be rational and honest in dealing with myself, but when I am of dreams, a chance name or thought can send me into wild, imaginative trances. I lie down and close my eyes. I am not Tedd Burr. I am a beautiful woman, desired, loved, cherished. Shall I ever be loved? Loved by many in all shadings of love? Or could I but lie in one man's heart as tragically as he lie in mine? But what impossible sentiments. If only I could control myself, Mr. Bellamann. I know these dreams aren't practical, but you are. So it is a battle between you and my dreams. I swear there's a big me and a little me. The big me is wise, but weak. The little me is young and tantalizing. Oh, don't leave me now, Mr. Bellamann. Yes, I am dramatizing. I shall laugh in a moment. No, I don't want to laugh. Perhaps it is just the suspense of waiting to hear what you have to say about my novel. I said to you in the very beginning that I am not a physician, nor a psychiatrist, and I am not attempting to usurp their function. At first it seemed to me that you do not require either. Today I'm not so sure. I suspect that this is Sidney French, the protagonist in your novel. Yes, it is. I don't think Sidney French is who you believe him to be. Anyone this ill-adjusted to his environment makes everyone around him equally ill-adjusted. I exaggerated Sidney's worst qualities for dramatic effect. I didn't write about Sidney French because I like to write. I thought if the novel had any dramatic possibilities that I could play Sidney, and that might be the start of a unique acting career for me. Listen, Ted, I'm an old man, relatively speaking. I've lived a long time and I've seen a lot. I can only talk truth to you by hurting your feelings worse than any surgeon ever could. If you can take it, if you are strong enough, it may be good for you. If you think it is not the right comment for you, you are free to reject it and go your own way. Up front, I must tell you, I knew Jamie Wakefield personally. He was a good friend of mine, and he was quite talented, but he missed all boats. And the latter days of Jamie were not pretty. With all due respect, Mr. Bellamann, we're not talking about Jamie Wakefield now. We're talking about Sidney French. So then, let me talk about Sidney French. I will start with the obvious. There is no such world in which Sidney French could ever exist. Perhaps if there were a world with 3 sexes, Sidney might pass. But there can never be such a world. Why can't Sidney rightfully exist as a fictitious character in the world of a novel? Even in the world of fiction, Sidney would be considered an aberration. Your Dr. Gordon was an aberration in society, and yet he existed as a character in King's Row. Let's stick to your novel. I think your main problem is that you have not put down on paper what I imagine was in your mind. You said that the Frenches were in the top echelon of society, and yet you have presented the Frenches as nothing more than a lower middle-class family with the worst breeding and the most outrageous manners. I wrote about society as I see it here in Bellevue. Yes, it is merely a masking, and the people behind it are fairly low class. However much you may have drawn from real life, the book entirely lacks reality. Most of the characters are paper thin, and their talk is completely artificial. I can't imagine any really thoroughbred person putting on the pure snobbish talk of the Frenches. Fine people are never haughty. Only false pretenders are. Do you think people are genuinely nice? I think they can be fairly nasty. I caught the Frenches with their pants down. Maybe once upon a time they were a beautiful family, but they've had their day in the sun. Now behind Windy Hill sits a family coming ever nearer to its extinction and death. Also, I find the musical setup incomprehensible. You claim that Sidney, was a talented and discriminating musician, and yet he was overly concerned with Debussy's Clair de Lune. Clair de Lune has only a slight poetry. It's not representative Debussy. It's not even good Debussy. I met Debussy once in Paris, and he dismissed Clair de Lune as a sugar plum, pas important. Why couldn't Sidney have played the pagodas or the magical preludes? Why are you picking apart Clair de Lune? I love that music. And it makes no difference to me whether Debussy cared for it or not. I do. And so do many, many other people. Most people don't know those other compositions you mentioned. So if I put Clair de Lune in my novel, and readers can hear it in their imagination because it is familiar to them, then that's enough for me. Then there are the colloquialisms which are completely out of place. Only in vaudeville would one speak of a great pianist as a talent. Sidney was not a great pianist. If only he had the goal to be a great pianist, what a brilliant career he might have had. Yet, when playing Clair de Lune, Sidney could dream still. Ted, the boy you portrayed is not just a fairy, and it's spelled F-A-I-R-Y, not F-A-E-R-Y. That's something else. He is also a fool. He demanded attention and approval from everyone, and he did everything to lose it. And the attention he did get, he hated. I know Sidney is a fool. I wrote him knowing it. I think Sidney is doomed, which is why I ended his life. The story of Sidney French is pure escapism. It is a retaliation against society, and it is dreadfully catty. In fact, this book has only one value. It's a pathological document. It is the frank exposition of a sick psyche. Even in the world of psychiatry, which is not surprised by anything, this boy is a sick boy. All of his actions, every one of them, are actions of hysteria. I think you may have done yourself a fine service in writing it. It is now out of your system. Why are you critiquing Sidney as if you were critiquing me as the author? I told you, I wrote Sidney as a means to an end, as a part I could play in a drama. You cannot wish to be like Sidney. You cannot sanely wish such a life or such an attitude. I'd rather see you shredded by German machine guns than grow into someone as freakish as Sidney French. I told you I only want to play Sidney as an actor. I must say, in all honesty, that this book has no chance of publication. From a literary point of view, it isn't any good. From a psychological point of view, it is a glimpse into the heart of an inferno. Isn't your opinion just one man's opinion? No. My opinion is not a personal one. It is a professional one, based on professional training and experience. It is a literary judgment. Just like I know bad piano playing when I hear it. Your biggest problem is that you tell far too much. Sex situations cannot be handled so roughly. This kind of writing has been confined to the bottom shelf of distasteful literature. Fine, that's all I want, is to make some money and to get a start. My book may not be good, but look at all of these. I think many of these are pretty awful. Why shouldn't I take a chance and submit it to a publisher? What I've been trying to say without hurting your feelings is that you do not write well. It is the very fabric of your writing that I think is immature and far from ready for any kind of publication. I recall only one sentence that stands out. Each day he swore there was no God. Each night he prayed. That's a fine sentence. It is strong and dramatic. I must conserve my strength because I'm still battling an illness from 2 years ago. I have a tricky heart that doesn't permit me stairs or even to pick up a suitcase. So when I am taking time out for this, I am doing it out of friendship. So please, do not fight back unnecessarily. I'm grateful that you make the time and effort for me, Ted. I've lived a certain amount of time. I know certain things. I would not tell you anything that isn't genuine. When I am in doubt, I say so. I am selfish, Mr. Bellamann. I don't want you so ill that you won't be able to help me. Your friendship is the most beautiful thing in my life. You gotta believe that. We are two fairly sensible people, aren't we? Don't you think the best friendship is a completely honest one? So please understand when I say that your opinion is only that of one man. I respect it tremendously. But perhaps somebody else should knock me down. I expect you to be hard-headed about a lot of things. It's all right if it can be combined with a capacity for learning. If you have no further use of the novel, could you please send back the copy? At this moment, I feel that I must submit it to a publisher. If I didn't, there may always be the question, maybe what if? Would you like me to make some notes? Yes! I would love to have your notes. Oh, I shall wait breathlessly for them. In due time. I am a busy man. I pray I don't lose you by this. You know, if you wish me to stick around and see what we may work out for you, you must not be resentful. I'm not resentful. No, not a bit. I'm just so thankful. I shall send along a grumpy photograph of me as a scolding presence. Not quite. I don't scold. Oh, I sigh with contentment. Oh, Mr. Bellamann, you are a light